Alechem to everybody. Merhaba. Bezrat Shem, today we're going to start a new topic. Kriyat Hamitta. Just share the screen. Shar Kavanot. The Shar Kavanot, Drush Halayla, should be Perek Drush Gimel. Is what we want. It's around Nun Gimel, it should be around somewhere around there. You got it? Okay, very good. So I'll do it from the screen over here. So yeah, Chazara for someone, but because it's always good to go over and so a little bit Hakdama for Kriyat Hamitta. Kriyat Hamitta is a different cycle to what we've got in what we're learning until now. So what we learned until now with Kitzu, we said that Arvit is killing Chitzonim, and then Mincha is killing Pnimim, and then on the third day of Shachrit is Kelim Pnimim. Yeah? So you can start with the Chitzon on the first day. So tonight we'll do Arvit. So we'll do the Kelim Chitzonim. But Kelim Chitzonim is also sometimes called Padsuf Nai. Yeah? And then the next day, meaning after tomorrow's Shachrit and Mincha, there'll be another Arvit of the Leil Sheni, and the Shachrit, and then the Mincha at the end of the second day. Then we'll do the Kelim Emsaim, which should be the Padsuf of Chagat. And then the next day, Shachrit, there'll be right time, Leil Shlishi, and then Shachrit Shlishi. In Shmoreh Esrei and Sim Shalom, we'll do the parts of Chabad, or that's called the Chabad. So that's how it's a 3-day cycle. So you can't finish. So the truth is today, we're also going to do Arvi, but we're also going to do Shachrit, but this Shachrit is from 3 days ago. Tomorrow morning Shachrit will be finishing something we started 3 days earlier. Right? And Mincha will always be the second day. So then we're not, even though in 1 24-hour hour we're doing all the tefillot, but they're not from the same set. Yeah. Now there's something else called Kadshaot, and it's called Zuna. There's the Zuna Gedolim and the Zun Haklalim or Kolalim. Right. So in all the avodah that we do, it takes 6,000 years, and we divide it into 1,000 years, and 100 years, and then 10 years, and then 1 year, and then 1 year you divide it into summer and winter, and then 6 months. In each of the 6 months, there's a month. Each month you got Rosh Chodesh, and then you got 4 weeks, and the 4 weeks are the part of Abba Iba Zah Nuk, and that's how you get each day. And then each day you got the Shlosha Kelim. So that's simple to understand. You heard what I just said, right? It's mathematics. So it's just basically you take it and you break it down. Right, 6,000 till you get to 1 year, and then summer, winter, and each month you've got to take out Rosh Chodesh. You've got exactly 28 days, 4 weeks, each week 7 days, and in 7 days you do the 7 Sfirot of the Sheva Melachim for that particular week. And then in each day you've got 3 lots of kelim. So that's why you got Shachrit Mincha Arvi. So why do you do Shmona Esrei? You know, you Mincha Arvi do it together. We just did Shmona Esrei, so the whole thing again only a couple of minutes later, right? So what's the point? It's because it's a different tikkun, right? Each tefillah has a different tikkun. And called the korban tikkuner. Yeah, you can't miss one. Then it's muvat yetalikon. You can't fix it if it's lost. Yeah, you can do tashlumin. I mean, once it goes after that, it's gone. Yeah, each one is tikkun. Now, aside from that, there's another system that's called the zuna prati. And the Rashash was megaleh through various writings in Tamid and in the Arizal's writings that there's something bigger that takes 3 days to finish. This also is 3 days, but this is in one tefillah, whichever tefillah you do, whether it's whichever kli it's for Shachrit Mincha or Arvit, but in one tefillah, what do? You do Achor, then the Nesira, and then the Panim, and then the Zivug. Right? So there's Mochin the Achor, Mochin the Panim, and then the Zivug. Yeah, but that's all in one tefillah. You get the Sim Shalom and the Zivugs in Sim Shalom. Baruch Atah Hashem, and then you do all the Zivugim, and you finish the job. So that's called Zuna Prati. But there's another system that's called Zuna Kolalim, and Rabbi Shaul has a particular way of explaining how they actually are the same thing, meaning the same family, but you have to know how to fix it. Baruch Hashem, we worked out how to fix it. It took many years to work out how to fix it, and doing it this way and that way and that way. And then now the Kem Shlomo and the Shaul is the same. But I realize they're the same, right? So it's even easier. So Baruch Hashem. So how does that work? So in Olat Tamid, in the Sefer Kolot Tamid was the last. It's like Shah Kavanot with extra bits in it, but it was written right at the end. So it's one of the most accurate swearing that we have. And Olat Tamid, when it describes this system, which is also copied in Etz Chaim in a few different places, but it says like this: it says this world is like Zuna Kolalim. It's not. We don't have a day and a night and a 24-hour period within each tefillah, right? If you think about it, I'll give you an example. There's a kavanah that we say in Amapil when we go to sleep, and then when we wake up, we say the opposite. Hama'avir shena. He moves. Hashem passes over the right. In the morning we say Hama'avir shena. And that's Hamapil shena. And in the morning Hama'avir shena. Now, if you do nets like the right way and everything before you do tikkun chatzot, so you have to do because the shachar chatzot. So chatzot already you finished your sleeping, so you say Hama'avir shena. So in that kavanah, the Ma'avir Shena is talking about the changeover from nighttime to daytime. According to the Arizal, daytime and nighttime doesn't work when you look out and see dark or light. You know, in the Gemara, bet in Brachot, it says, and the way the Gemara explains it, if you look in Rashi, is the nighttime finished and it was morning. The morning time finished and it was night. So Vayi Erev means the world was created at daytime. There's a Rashbam on there as well. It's Rashi on it, right? Vayerev doesn't mean first was night and then was day. It means the night finished and it was day, and that's when the world was created. Vayerev, now it's morning. Vayiboker, now it's night. Right? So what we call day and night is a system. So anyway, Bekitza, what it means is that Chatzot, the day begins, because you're preparing to get to the morning. And then 12 hours after that is when it finishes at Chatzot. So according to the Kavanot of day and night, it goes from Chatzot to Chatzot. It's got no halachic implications. But the nighttime is called Nuk, and the daytime is called Zah. Right? So the 12 hours from Chatzot of nighttime to Chatzot of daytime is called Zun. Zah. It's called Zah. And the 12-hour period, 6 hours, which you go from midday to nighttime, and from nighttime Layl, it's called, until Chatzot nighttime, is called Nuk. You understand? So when you're talking about the day and the night, it's a center point, like it's how the sun goes up to reach its peak at Chatzot, and then it comes down. So Chatzot is the peak, right? So in other words, Nuk goes from midday to midnight, and Zah goes from midnight to midday. Right? And it says when you say Ma'avir Shena, when you cross over at Chatzot, is when you're supposed to say the brachot of Birkot HaShachar. So when you say the brachot of Birkot HaShachar, Chatzot, you're crossing over from nighttime to daytime, because nighttime began at 12 o'clock in the afternoon, according to the Arizal, and it finishes at midnight. Right? So when you say the bracha, you're crossing over from Zah to Nuk, and the kavanah there is talking about 12 hours and 12 hours. So there, in that whole sugya, it says that our world parallels this system of 12 hours and 12 hours. Right? And that's called Zuna Kolalim. You understand? So you need 24 whole hours to finish each system, meaning of Zah and Nuk. So one Zun, you got Zun of the Achor, is 24 hours. Zun of the Panim is another 24 hours. And then the Zivug is the third 24 hours. You need 72 hours to really get to Nefilat Apayim. The whole kavanah of Nefilat Apayim, by the way, is this. Nefilat Apayim is not... Well, we talked about the first day you go up, you get to Shema, and then you cross over to the ones of the day, yesterday. Remember we learned that? The people go up and then they go down. Right? When you get to Nefilat Apayim, it's another system altogether. It's got nothing to do with that. It's connected, but we'll have to learn how it's connected. Yeah? I'll give you the answer and you'll think it's so simple, but that's only because it took years of working out, right? But the way that works is to do with Kriyat Shema Hamitta. That's why we're saying it. So how does it work? The first 24 hours is all Achor. So when we learn Achor, we said Achor is still Be'ahava of Shema. right? From Full Behavav Shemona Esrei. Do you remember what we learned? We learned Arvit. So he said you start davening and you got to first of all to Echad of Shema, then you got Mochin, the Shefa Chitzon, and you get Shefa Piva, all that's the Achor, and then you got the Panim of the Achor, which is from Echad of Shema all the way until Be'ahavav Shemona Esrei, and then there's a Nesirah, and then you start with the Panim. So in one tefillah you did Achor Panim, and then you get Zivug with Nisim Shalom. Here, the whole first 24 hours is only Achor. And then when you get to the part where you swap over from the Achor to the Panim, there's a Dormita and there's a Nesirah. You talked about when Hashem took Adam and he put him to sleep. And then he took away the Tzela and he built up Nuk. And then they become Panim be Panim. And then you have got another 24 hours of the Panim. And then in the third day, right, if you get to 72 hours, will be the Nefilat Apayim of 3 days after you begin this whole system. That's the Kavanot of Nefilat Apayim, and that's for the Zuna Gedolim. And this Zuna Gedolim is where there's a Shefa of a Nolad, a Vlad Nolad, like a child is born, all the Shefa comes in the world, goes to all the Olamot, and he goes into the stock exchange, he goes into the hospitals for new children to come in the world. All that is on the third day. But the third day of this system that we're talking about, right, it's actually on the second day of the other system, but we'll have to show the charts how to understand it. So what that means is when you talk about Kriyat Shema Hamitta, we're talking about 24 hours later. Okay? Remember these words, 24 hours later. We're starting Kriyat Shema in a story which is 24 hours later. Why? Because the first 24 hours, the Achor. Kriyat Shema Hamitta is the Nesirah between the Achor and the Panim. So there had to have been 24 hours previous to do the Achor. Yeah? And when that Zun goes to sleep after 24 hours for the Dormita, that's like when we go to sleep. Right? Because if it would be according to Shachrit, Mincha, and Arvit that we said before, with the first system that we've been learning until now, then we would have to go to sleep in the middle of Shemona Esrei when you get to Behava, and then wake up and do that 3 times a day. Right? So that proves that our world, our human being world, does not go according to this smaller cycle, which is called Zun HaPrati. It goes according to Zun HaGedolim, or the Katshot. We call it Zun HaKolelim, the Kol HaKatshot. That's the Lashon of the Rashash, right? Zun HaKolelim, the Kol HaKatshot. And our world is parallel, makbil to that system. So we sleep once, hopefully, only once in 24 hours. We don't have to sleep many times in 24 hours. I can power nap, but that's maybe the idea of power napping. A little bit for Shachrit, a little bit for Mincha, a little bit for Arvit. Ashrechem, you can do that. Okay, so now we're going to learn this whole inyan of going to sleep at night, how to sound, for understanding this whole system and how it comes into play, and how we have to keep it separate from what we're calling the kelim of Shachrit, Mincha, and Arvit, of Chitzon for Arvit, and then Mincha, Imsai, and then Shachrit will be the Primi. Yeah, that's a different system. That's a system within this bigger system, and we have to see how it applies. It's a bit complicated. Yeah, so one thing at a time. So Be'ez Hashem will start. So Rav Chaim will mezakeh otanu b'kriyat. לא שמענו הקול שלך הרבה זמן.
בעניין הלילה.
עניין הלילה.
בעניין הלילה כבר דעתיך. איך הוא צריכה השינה והתדהמה להפעיל על האדם לצורך הנסירה הבאה אחריה.
Okay, שמעתם? So we're talking that we have to go to sleep. Hashem is mapil tardema al Adam. He put Adam to sleep, right? Why? לצורך הנסירה. Remember all the nesirah is? You have to saw them in half. Like Rosh Hashanah, all the Tkiyot and all that. Saw them in half. So that then Nuk can then be by an individual by herself. So she'll get her mochin and build her binyan, and then they can turn around panim panim, and they can make a zivug and bring shefa in the world. Otherwise, they can never have a zivug because she's only back to back. So you have to saw them in half and be mashlim the kotel and make a nesira for them to be panim panim, and that was supposed to be on when they were created. After they were created, it goes the Gemara, the Sanhedrin, all the first hour, second hour, third hour, till they were supposed to make a zivug, supposed to be on Shabbat. But they made a zivug before Shabbat when they were still in the Bechina B'achor. I have an explanation for that, but that's not for now. So carries on.
אתה עוד עניין הדע, כי כמו שביארנו שנשמותינו אנחנו עולות למעלה בכל לילה, בהיות גופותינו ישנים ונרדמים, ואז הם נעשים
Bechinat man.
man.
So when we go to sleep, apart from the fact we're going to sleep, we're doing something very great. We'll be sending up ourselves up to high olamot to be ma'aleman. So we're sending our neshama up to be nifkad. So, and when we do that, whenever we go out, we take things with us, right? So if you understand that it says in all of the shovavim that we do, right? All that says in the Inshallah Kavanot is going to say, around this few pages from here, that only fixes the damage which is a Gehenam, meaning the damage of the sin. But it doesn't fix the problem, because the Zerah Batala went out into the Olamot, the Chitzonim, to the Kippot, went out. So you have to bring it back. And the only way you can bring it back is Kriyat Hamitta. Why Kriyat Hamitta? Because when we send our neshama up to the Rechem Ha'elyon of Nuk, we have to send our neshama up to the Rechem of which Nuk? Of the Zuna Kololim the Kadshaot. It's a bigger one. Can't do it in Shachrit Minchan Arvi in the time of the Zivug. But the time of the Zivug, when you finish with the Achon, you build her up. So we mafkid our neshama into the Rechem of Nuk, because that's where we came from. When we go there, we can take all the tipot back into Zah, and then he'll give it to Nuk, and they all come back and they can be fixed. Ben Ish Chai wrote and said that Ayom, that that every night we have Kavanot Kriyat Hamitta, you might be able to bring back one nitzot of the tipot that went out, or I think it's a crazy number, like 106,000. I don't know, it's got some number, 126,000. It's got an interesting number. I can't remember what it corresponds to now. Get out of my head. But like thousands and thousands, hundreds and thousands, 100-something thousand you can bring back in just with one Kavanot Kriyat Hamitta. But that's not the main thing that Kriyat Hamitta is for. That's a side benefit that comes because we're going to send out into the Rechem of Nuk, so we can bring it back there as well. Yeah. So that's for saying we have to male man. What's this man which we male? Is the man for Zuna Kolim for the Zivug, which is going to be in Nefilat Apayim. But the first, so one more klal. Let me just remember. There's a klal. We learn it from the Gemara that with Yaakov and Avotenu Kedoshim, when they accept, it doesn't work with Yaakov and Leah, but it works with everything, all the other zivugim. That the first zivug, the Gemara says, En Adam korek britim, any isha korek britim ba'ala ele misha asa kli. Woman only makes a brit. She has a special relationship with the first man that she's ever with, because he made her fitting to be able to have children. So the Gemara says, Misha asa akili, made her into a kli to have children. Which means that the first time a couple are together and have relations, he has to give her a levush, which is called ahuru chadash avigla ba'ala. It's called zivuk kadma'a, the first zivuk. And that levush has in it a chelik that has to go to all the children that they're going to have, and also one for her, so that she'll have a menstrual cycle and have it's called her ruach, the chaya. I mean, that's a neshama that she has to live with, which is why when Rachel, who only got 2 such portions from Yaakov, one went to Yosef. Now, in order for Binyamin to get the other one, she had to give her chelik up, and she died in childbirth. He could say nishmata when he was coming out. That's not nishmata. She died because she only had 2 chalakim. But so you don't know how many chalakim you're giving your wife the first time you're together. Okay, it's good to tell us the chatanim. So I appreciate that's very special time. So that's how it works. So here too, Zanuk in Kriyat Hamitta, he has to make into a kli that there's not a zivug of holadah to have the child, but to make it where did he get this ruach from? His mother. And where did she get it from? Her husband. You keep on going back from mother, son, her mother, husband, and then him from his mother, and then husband, mother, until you get to Adam Arishon, who gave it to Chava, and then she gave it to her children, and then it gets passed down all the way down. Right? So it means all of the levushim of all of the children who were ever going to be born were all in the original one that Adam gave to Chava. That's how it works. Right? So here too, Kriyat Hamitta, first we have to do the zivuk kadma'a, which is the whole kavanah of le'olam va'ed, The all is to send it up, and the mem is the rechem of nuk, and you have to put it all in there, and that's the first zivug to make into a kli. So it's the kli yisod. And when you've done that, the next time there'll be a zivug with zanuk will be nefilat apayim. So every time that's be two zivugim. One is to make into a kli, and then subsequent ones is to give birth to children, give a livush of the actual child, the actual neshama. Okay, so explaining over here, it says that's a very important word. It's not a regular zivug, it's zivug elyon. In a few places in Shiur Kavanot, it uses this lashon for it's the zivug elyon. So for example, when you say Oseh Shalom, yeah, so it says in Oseh Shalom, we have to take 3 steps back. There's something called the Agan Asar. It's like a circle. Agan is like a circle, right? And we have to make a semicircle because there's going to be a zivug elyon in Neflat Apayim. And before it happens, it's nearest to be there. So you have to take 3 steps back, and the olamot bia, they come forward in front and they cover Zanuk, so we can't. They make a mechitza. That's why we take 3 steps back. So each olam is going in front of us, right? Which they came up to Atzilut. The olam come Atzilut, so they all come around each other, and then all the other kaddishi we say we bring them back behind. But for that moment, and then Shiur Kavanot, it says for zivug elyon. So this lashon zivug elyon is talking about the Neflat Apayim. Okay. The Leshem doesn't agree with the Rashash. He says none of this is written in the Arizal Meforash. Okay, and he says it's the zivug begins in Sim Shalom and it ends in Neflat Apayim. It's got a different way of explaining it. We're not learning according to that. Okay, there's another way to explain everything, but we're following Rashash and all the Mefarshim, that all the generations.
Well, then we got 3 steps back. We'll finish to come out. That's the only one with the zivug is happening.
Maybe no, it wouldn't. It's more complicated than that. Okay, that's more complicated. Can't go into it now because we'll confuse everybody. But when we finish everything, we'll see how the Leshem learns, because he's actually very similar, but he just doesn't. He just keeps it all in one. There's no prati and kachol. That's the only difference. But when it says zivug elyon, that means that's a code word for us to know we're talking about nefilat apayim. So when we go to sleep, we're taking up the birurim, right? The after the zivug kadma crash balabita, yeah. A couple of days later, not yet. You have to go through a 3-day cycle. We have to go another day and then another day. The third day, those biurim are the biurim that we're taking up. That. And you know when they go up, and Hashem Melech, Hashem Malach, El Nekamot, all of that section, Hadul Hashem Kishur, that's when they go up. But here we have to be ma'ale them. Okay, so it's the tzorech zivug elyon. Here it's for the zivug kadma'a, and Hashem Melech is for the actual zivug of the Neflat Apayim. So zivug elyon means Neflat Apayim, but we're not at that stage. It's the earliest stage where you have to do it in Kriyat Hamitta. The first round, zivug kadma'a. I don't want to say more than that because I'll have to open up more books. V'zeh letzorech atzman shel haneshamot. So that means when we go up to Nuk, we also get Itchadshut. If you read Pardes Rimonim, explains, but it's like Pardes Rimonim, the Ramach HaKadosh explains, there's a Nahar called Nahar Dinur. And we have to get this levush, when we say the bracha of Malbish Arumim and Hanoten Le'av Koach, we can fix the levushim of our neshama to make them like new. If a person did an avira so much that there's nothing left of any mochin, I'll be sharabim, I shall make it from you. And if he only weakened it, then I don't tell you have koach. He's weak. He's not completely ruined. He's still got a bit of good, right? So it's only you have koach. It's like he weakened, he makes it stronger. That's the kavanot in those brachot. So it says in Ramach HaKadosh in Pardes Rimonim that they take the neshama to this river, and the malachim, if he's done sins, they beat him, and if he's lucky, they malbish him a new levush if he's zocher. And that's the echal zechut. When you get to Lael Baruch, right over there in Shash, that's what happens, right? The echal zechut. That's the place where we go to. We have to visit there anyway in Shachrit on our way. Like you might get some. If you ever feel any kind of, like we say by Lael Baruch, you feel any kind of trauma, you understand it's probably a good reason why. So Rabotai, so let's come back to what we're talking about. So saying it's good for us to go to sleep. Because when Za and Nuk get their mochin, there's a bit that's left over for us that comes to us as well. And we get it, although the zivug is then, but we only get it. The Shem explains when we get to Amud HaShachar, when the day starts, that's when we get it. So even though we made the bracha for it in Chatzot, that's when we get it. So there's a Hitchut and Neshama, and there's a bit of a machloket whether it's only the levushis, the whole Neshama, because normally we say Neshama Torah, that doesn't, all the other don't affect the real Neshama, only the levushim of the Neshama. So we're going to go into that now. Maybe we've got time at the end when we see the Batzle Gani on it. Very interesting. He says everything is renewed from the start every day. So if you start a new day, it could be like Moshe Rabbeinu. That's what it means, what Chazal meant. Every day we can wake up, can be a completely different person. The Tolosan Rebbe, Rav Aaron Rota, he wrote Sefer Shomer Munim, Mantata Kodesh. So in his Akdama, he says he wasn't able to learn. He wasn't, amongst the Hasidim, the Tolos Aaron, they learn in Litvish yeshiva, so they're very. I mean, the Tolos Rebbe of today is a big gaon. Like, been to see me. He actually learned with Rabbi Tia, Kabbalah with Rabbi Tia. Yeah. And one of the Talmidim, I took stuff from him. He takes us straight in, Baruch Hashem. He likes to get all the whatever's going on. So the Tolosan Rebbe, and meaning his father, he writes that he couldn't learn, he wasn't special, he wasn't getting anywhere. So he went to care of some tzaddik, and he cried and he cried and he cried. He cried. So the next day he woke up, he was a different person. He became an Eloi just overnight. Yeah, he got Ibun Shama or something, whatever. So these things are real. Okay, so let's carry on. So we go to sleep at night, right? It says v'zeh letzorech atzman shel haneshamot kedei sheyachzeru להתחדש. Now we understand what it means להתחדש, right? When is that? Yom Yafeh, when the morning comes, right? If he's zocher in the Nahal Dinur, they'll give him a new levush and he'll get a new mochin and he'll become like a new person. You want to carry on? Okay. לפי שבזמן שהיה בית המקדש קיים,
היה זיווג העליון מבחינת
פנים בפנים. That means the בחינה of פנים בפנים was all day long. We now only זוכה to the פנים בפנים when we get to מילה באהבה 18, and when it finishes, we can extend it a bit by wearing tefillin and learning Torah, but once it goes, we go back to the state of achor b'achor, right? I mean, all the mochin that we bring down in Shachrit, they're mistalek after alenu l'shaber. They go. But at the time of the Beit HaMikdash, we were on that level all the time, all year long. And when we did Shemona Esrei, we went to even higher places, right? We didn't need Shemona Esrei because they're Kavanot. There was a tefillah always, Rambam says, right? But that's another story. Okay? So it was panim bepanim.
נוציא נשמות חדשות, אבל אחר החורבן אין תפילות שלנו מועילות, רק לפי שעה להביא נשמות חדשות מבחינת אחור באחור.
בלבד.
בלבד.
לכן, so now because there's achor v'achor in the world, so that's why we have to go to sleep, right? Also, ולכן אנחנו אומרים יחכה שמע.
בשעת התפילה, זווג, בתחילה את אבא ואמא, ומאותו הזיווג ינחילו לזון ביניהם את המוחין והעטרות שלהם, כדי שאחר כך, בשעת תפילת 18, יזדווגו גם הם, ביניהם זון כנודע.
Okay, we can go a bit faster now. We're saying that's why we in Shema we got all these bechinot, achor, panim, and all because we're not the tikkun. We have to make a tikkun every day because in the time of Beit Mikdash was very metukan. Now it's not metukan, so we have to metaken it. ואומנם, הזיווג הזה הוא בעניין היום, והנה גם בזוג הלילה. So you got a bechinah of night, day, and you got a bechinah of night. So in each one of them, אנו מייחדים ייחוד קריאת שמע על מיתתנו, והנה החסדים הראשונים לא היו צריכים רק לומר פסוק ראשון, שמע ישראל, and that was enough. because in the Gemara, the brachot, סגילו, בחד פסוקה, רחמים. אבל עתה, אנחנו בדורות האחרונים, later generations, הלוואי! כל פרטי הכוונה וייחוד כדי שנוכל לגרום זיווג עליון של אחר חצות לילה. So this, he's saying, this is talking about the zivug is after Chatzot Laila. So now we've already learned something new in this piece here. Zivug Elyon shel achar Chatzot Laila kidei lechadesh et haneshamot hayeshanot. So let's go back and explain something that said. There was a concept in the Beit HaMikdash you could bring new neshamot. Now the neshamot is called the neshamot chadashot. This neshamot chadashot business is very confusing. Because yes, everybody uses the neshamot chadashot means something different, right? Here, neshamot chadashot means the neshamot that were not affected by Adam HaRishon's sin and they never came in the world yet. The neshamot chadashot have never ever come in the world yet, ever. Right, because they were supposed to be the ones that Adam and Chava were supposed to bring. They didn't come in. Then there's the neshamot of Adam and Chava, right, which after they did sin, they became blemished and they fled away from him. And those some went up. That's called the Zirayla. That's one of the Chachamim of the generation, Gedolei Ador, and the Tzaddik Ador. And then there's the ones that went into the Klipot. Yeah, and then the ones that remained in Adam HaRishon, and he has children, he carries them like that. Right? Now, the ones that went into the Klipot have to come back in Gilgul. And the first time they come back, like David HaMelech was a new Neshama, they'll have a very big test with the Yetzirah. And they're called Neshama Chadashot. Because they came in the world for the first time around the Gilgul. So that's really what it means. Okay, but sometimes it means those ones which never yet came in the world, but that can only be after we fix this world. Those Neshama will come afterwards. So here, anyway, there's a Bechina Chadasha and then a Yeshanot. We're only dealing with the Yeshanot. Okay?
Today there aren't any Neshama chadashot.
There isn't, no. We're all Gilgulim. Yeah, all Tzaddikim. All the Tzaddikim, which is called the Ziyara and the Zohar. Okay, Rabotai, look. Here we're saying that the Zivug Elyon is Achar Chatzot Laila. That means we learned something new now, which we haven't said until now. This Zivug Kadma'ah that we've been speaking about of Kriyat Shema Hamitta. When do we say Kriyat Shema Hamitta? Before Chatzot. But it only happens at Chatzot. Which means everything that we're going to do in Kriyat Shema Hamitta is al Shem Atid, is what's going to happen afterwards. And even then, there's two parts where it looks like we're doing the identical thing. You've got the bracha mapil, and then you've got the zivug when you say Olam Va'ed. So there are different opinions whether the main thing is in the bracha or the main thing is in the Baruch Shem Kol Malchut Olam Va'ed. But at the end of the day, anyway, it's not happening then. It's happening at Chatzot. Right? One is the Ikar Kavanah, one is the Remez. You've got a Remez, you've got the Kavanah, and then you've got when it really happens. Okay? So just hold on to that for the moment. But we see over here that this main zivug that we're talking about, it happens at Chatzot. It happens at Chatzot. Okay? So then we're supposed to wake up at Chatzot, and it's already happened, and then we do Tikkun Chatzot, we go to the next stage. Okay? והנה, בתחילת אנו אומרים, כל הסדר קריאת שמע בזהו כדי לזווק את אבא ואמא בתחילה. First we have to do אבא ואמא, בין השם אלוקינו השם. והנה ינחילו עטרות ומוכין לבניהם תזון, and then it goes תזון. כדי שגם הם יכולים אחר כך, אחר חצות, לילה, להזדווק לצורך חידוש הנשמות, כנזכר. So that means that חצות. But it says after, but it means חצות. ונמצא, כי כמו שהזיווג תזון, של היום הוא גדול משל הלילה, כך ייחוד כשמה של היום הוא גדול משל הלילה. כבר בא אצלנו באורך ואין שם הנה בזה סוד הקדשים לבקרים רבה אמונתך. כי המלכות הנקרא אמונה נעשית גדולה ורבה בכל הלילה, על ידי כל הנשמות התחתונים העולים בכל לילה, להיכלל ולהתעבר בתוכה. Meaning the malchut becomes greater because our neshamot go up to the malchut. So she expands. And why do we do that? Because our neshamot goes there, so it'll be again you chadshut. Biota betocha. So in other words, biyad kav kidoti, but we are being mafgid our neshama. You understand? That we're actually sending our neshama up. Yeah? And then she becomes great. So that is all before Chatzot. So here you see that the actual completion of the Chatzut for us is in the morning. Yeah? Yom Yafeh. That's the boker. Chadashim, when is the Chadashim? לבקרים, right? והנה הזיווג של הלילה בין הזיווג לאבא ואמא ובין הזיווג לזון, both the זיווגים, which we're calling זיווג קדמה, כיוון שהוא גרוע מזיווג של יום, מוכרח הוא שיהיה בצורך תחילת תיקון לזיווג של יום, כי זה הזיווג הנעשה בלילה גורם תיקון. Meaning this is a lower זיווג, but we'll create the bigger one that will come in the daytime, and that's what we said, that's the real זיווג עליון, או לפנת אפיים. וכוננות כדי ליסוד, לנוק כדי שיוכל אחר כך לעלות ממן בכלי, so you see over here, וכוננות כלי היסוד דנוק. So here's the secret, by the way, threw it in there, yeah? That this is telling you the zivug kadmaas for the kli yesod of Nok, make it into a kli. So she be able to have children. So the first zivug that always is between a husband and a wife, and the zachar nekeva, is to make it into a kli, and that's what happens at nighttime. But the biggest zivug to have children is in the daytime. So that's why he was talking about the bigger and the smaller. Yeah, so you should get that point. ועתה נבהר עניין כוונות ותיקון זה הכלי דיסוד דנוק. Now I explain to you what happens to this Kriyat that we're talking about. מה עניינו? הנה מקום עליית הנשמות בכל לילה היא ביסוד המלכות, נוק עליונה. Yeah? Want to carry on or should I carry on? Only because we've got 15 minutes left. שהוא בית הרחם שלה. So now, slowly, he's introducing us into the concept of what we're going to see in the Kavanot and the Siddur, right? Of this rechem of the Nuka Eliona. Why is it Nuka Eliona, not regular Nuk? Because we said this is Zund Kodashat, Kachot. It's the bigger, it's not the smaller one of Sim Shalom. And so Shalom is also a Nuk, but that's Nuk Prati. This is the big Nuk, right? והמקום ההוא נקרא יד, אשר זה סוד ביד חבקית דרוכי. That in this pasuk, there's the Yud Daled B'Yadcha and there's Yud Daled Vavkid. And there's Kavanot over there, these two hands that take up the neshama. Shanu omrim b'chol laila, ala mitatenu, ata mioto nikra yad, hu ki hinei gevurot. There's 5 gevurot in each hand, and 5 chasadim. Shu sod heotiot mansipach. Veotiot, Elohim, v'shosham, hem lemala. Okay, I'm not going to do all of this because it's better when we come to do in the Siddur. Just wanted to give that as an introduction. I'm going to jump now to the next drasha. And this is all the details of the actual Kavanot over here. But you can already see the order of what's going on in this parak, which is the main thing we wanted. Now here we're going to talk about the great thing about when we should go to sleep, when's the best way to go to sleep, and how to serve Hashem when we sleep. בסדר כולל הלילה, ונבאר תחילה עניין כולל general introduction, yeah? בעניין השינה של האדם. מתי הוא טוב לישון או להפך. הנה זמן השינה, this we're going to big up now for all the people who are the next million people here. You're the ambassadors of all of England. הנה זמן השינה הוא בלילה. ואז השינה טוב מאוד כמו שהתבהר. האמנם השינה ביום רעה היא לצדיקים וטוב לרשעים. זולתי ביום השבת כמו שהתבהר עניינה בסדר היום. וגם בעניין יום השבת ראין שם. ואמנם עניין השינה של הלילה נבהר אותה בסוד ברכת המפיל חבלי שינה. וגם אתה נבהר קצת עניינה. Meaning we're going to go back to this when we talk about Kriyat Shema Hamitta. This part of Shar Kavanot is Drush Halayla. So we haven't yet got into actually Kriyat Shema Hamitta. It's just general Arabic concepts, right? Although the last parak he did explain it, but in this parak it's just to do a little bit of the inyanim. Tzat inyana. Mahi. ואומנם, רבותיי, ואומנם, דע, כי טוב הוא להיזהר שלא ישן אדם תכף אחר תפילת ערבית. You shouldn't sleep after ערבית because you just prayed, you just got your mochin and you just got all this chiyut and now you're going to go to sleep. And you have to let it, internalize it. אומנם, יישאר עד שיעברו ג' שעות מן הלילה. אחר כך ישן. ועניין זה תלוי, במה שכתב רז"ל, it says חלוי, but should be תלוי. בפרק אין עומדים. What does it say? חסדים הראשונים היו שוהים שעה אחת, they used to wait 1 hour, אחר כך מתפללים, בשעה אחת אחר התפילה עצמה. Right? that's the גמרא. שמעתם? אתם איתי?
חסידים עושים.
זה משנה. לא יודע, משנה ברכות. So the בן יהוידע, he says that when you do the Kavanot, you have to do the Kavanot in your mind to first prepare them all and go through the whole Siddur, Shachri. Then you do them, and then afterwards you go over them again. That's what he did. Ben Ishchak, that's what he did. Right? It's Ben Yehuda, like a Davar Pashut. Can't even do even part of one 3 times.
What did he say?
Huh? You have to feel Mechila. He can't Likrat Elohecha Israel. First do Hachana, go through all of Shachri in your mind, right? Then take the Siddur and pray, and then do Chazarah, the whole thing again. That's what it says in Ben Yehuda. Those are Chasadim Rishonim. That's why you need 3 hours, 1 hour for each. Arbit should be 1 hour for the Arbit before preparing it, 1 hour to do it, 1 hour to go. 3 hours. There's no time to do anything else. That's all you do. So it doesn't actually mean a whole hour. It means Sha'ah here, Ben Yehuda says it means the time that you need to pray. The time it's the Sha'at Tefillah, right? It doesn't have to be 60 minutes. Because the Ben Ishchak actually says Shimon Esrei should take half an hour. ופריך בגמרא, אם כן, מאחר ששוהים כל כך בכל תפילה ותפילה ומלאכתם ממתי נעשית? When are we going to have time to go to work? Right? ומשעני מתוך שחסידים היו, right? Because Hashem did it על ידי אחרים. וצריך לומר, מה עניינם של אלו החסידים? כי בלי ספק, without any doubt, להכרח גדול, היו עושים דבר זה, באמנם, סוד העניין, דע, כי קודם חורבן בית המקדש כמעט שלא היו צריכים לישראל להתפלל. He didn't need to, because we're already in the state of תיקון. שזון היו מטמאים פנים בפנים, כי המוחין הזה היו מקיימים בו תמיד. ולא היו מסתלקים מכלל, it didn't go away after the תפילה. ולא היה אז צורך אל מעשה התחתונים, ותפילתם כדי להמשיך מוחין, אל זון כדי לזבוק פנים בפנים. אבל לאחר חורבן בית המקדש, באותם רבים, הסתלקו המוחין מן הזון, because they fled, ועל ידי תפילתנו אנו גורמים להחזיר ולהמשיך מוחין בזון כדי שדבקו בעת התפילה וישפיעו שפע בעולם, ואחר התפילה חוזרים המוחין להסתלק מהם עד זמן התפילה זה אחרת. וכל דרכם תמיד בכל תפילה ותפילה של ימי החול. גם זה הסוד מה שכתב בגמרא שהיו קצת תלמידי חכמים מתפללים בתפילת נדבה באמצע היום, זה אקסטרה תפילה. כוונתם הייתה להחזיר המוחין פעם אחרת, לגרום זיווג עליון בשאר עיתות היום. The Ben Ish Chai, לשון חכמים, he says it's כדאי, everybody should say תפילת נדבה with that Shem Malchut every day, and he wrote a whole nusach to say, so you can bring back the מוחין.
But they said not to do it because it
Avadia.
really means.
See לשון חכמים and see what he said. What he's interested in what's written over here, right? He's interested in what's written over here. It's true for Robert. It's better not to do because,
Not to do.
but you could do without Shem Malchut. You don't have to say Shem Malchut. The Gemara is doing with Shem Malchut, but we can do without Shem Malchut.
סתם תפילת נדבה.
You look in Ashkenazi Siddurim Beit Tefillah, they all have it in there. Tefillat Nedava, it's all in there. One bracha, Shomei Tefillah, it's got the whole nusach in it.
כן, it's one
Yeah.
thing or one
So
thing.
it's kedai to do every day. Now, the Ben Ish Chai, he says that this Gemara of how many hours you should learn and how much if you pray and how much time you're gonna have time to learn and work, right? So there's a machloket in the Gemara about what's the ikar, the tefillah or not.
The תפילה,
And should you take as much time as you need to pray, and even if it's like because the Gemara says halvai shitpalu kol hayom, right? Halvai shitpalu kol hayom. So you know the Ben Ish Chai
That's what
says
it
it's
says
the only
every day.
place that we've ever seen. The Ben Ish Chai says this is the machloket of the Gra and the Baal Shem Tov. And he says Kanireh the Baal Shem Tov was right. He says you have to pray more important
by split
as
it
much
into-
as you need to do the Kavanot.
I thought he was splitting the day.
The Ben Ish Chai, who wrote more than anyone you know ever wrote. I mean, Sforim he wrote, right? But he's maskir. He said this is really the shorish of the machloket. It's a pele because how did he even know what's going on in the world in Volodyin and in Mezebutch and I know what. Yep. Anyway, it's not our yeah. Question, Martin?
I remember he was to split it to 888.
Okay. That's another thing.
You know, it's
גם זה סוד,
מלאכה
מה שכתב
שנה.
בגמרא, שהיו קצת אותם החכמים שהיו נוהגים ללבוש תפילין כל היום, כולו, because they want to be מושך למוחין. Look, the main tamtzit here, the main point here is telling you there's mochin that have to be brought into the world, and having the state of the mochin in the world is the tikkun. Right? Remember what we said in the Rashash, the main avodah is man v'mochin. So when we're in a state where the mochin are not nimshach all day long because of the korban, we have to do it. And in order for us to do it, each time we have to send man to get the mochin. And there's different ways to keep the mochin going. You wear your tefillin and you learn Torah after Shachrit, you can be moshech a bit longer. The ones that were ready, not mistalek so soon. Another way is tefillah nedava. Another way is telling you, yes, to wear your tefillin, right? והטעם שעל כן היו גורמים אל המוחין העליונים דזון שלא יסתלקו מהם כל היום, כמו שבא זה לאל בדרוש תפילין, בדרוש למה זה זמן תפילין הוא ביום ולא בלילה, כי זה יבטי מושך את המוחין. ואין שם גם, שם מתברר עניין הנזכר פה בסוד הסתלקות המוחין אחר כל תפילה ותפילה, ושם מתברר עניין הסתלקות הזה מה עניינו ולהיכן מסתלק ולמה נעשה ממנו? Why does it go away?
מה הסטמינה שלי למשוך את המוחין כל היום?
תיקון. אתה מתקן עולם במלכות שדי. There's not even on.
למה? זה מרבה, אבל זה משובח. אז אתה עושה את זה ארבע פעמים ביום.
For some reason. Okay, רבותיי, ונחזור לענייננו. Okay, נחזור לענייננו, right? So the main thing is to be moshech the mochin to bring them down, yeah? כי החסידים הראשונים היו שוהים שעה אחת תפילה כדי לגרום למעלה לקיום העמדת המוחין. Kiyum v'hamadat. This is very important lashon because in Purim, it's the same lashon in Purim when it says the Torah Chacham says that if you do the seudot and you do the mitzvah of the Purim, then you can make a kiyum v'hamadah of the mochin the whole day of Purim, right? So it's exactly the same idea. There you can be moshech the or which comes out of the Purim, which is called Yisod De'aba, which comes out in the Achor, which only comes at one time in the whole year in Purim, and you can keep it the whole day long, because that's the sort of or Purim, right, of Megillat Esther, right? Gilui Mordechai Esther. So here's the same concept. If you prayed and you wrote down the mochin, it's not the same thing that you're talking about. That's the mochin the Achor. Here's talking about the mochin the Panim. After you finish Shachrit and you did the Tikkun and you got all the Shefa, right? So you can either take your tefillin off and run to work, or go and run to get a coffee, and I got a coffee, I can't live without coffee, right? Or you can keep your tefillin and do Chok Israel, and you're moshech the mochin to kiyum v'ha'amada. They stay longer with you in the world. The world's in the greatest state of tikkun. You're in a higher state, right? And that's why they would pray for another hour after they already prayed. The Chasadim Arishonim.
What would they pray if they finish it prayer?
It means they learn with their tefillin. Yeah. שעה אחת תפילה, ולא הסתלקו תכף. וזה סוד מה שכתוב על משה רבנו עליו השלום, שהיו ידיו פרוסות יותר מגימול שעות. That's why he had to put his hand, because it goes 3 hours at a time. הטעם הוא לפי שאין כוח ביד האדם להמשיך מוחין הנזכר יותר מגימול שעות. קניין נזכר בחסידים הראשונים. That's why they could only, otherwise they do all day long. Otherwise they do all day long. No, 3 hours is the maximum. ונלד חיים, כי מה שמניחים תפילין כל היום הטעם הוא לפי שבחינת התפילין הוא רשימו של המוחין שנסתלקו. The tefillin have in them a sod that the same mochin that came down in Shachrit, there's something called the reshimu. After they go away, they leave behind a roshem. And that roshem is what the tefillin are. Right? The kanab is roshem tefillin. אבל עניין התפילה עצמה הוא להמשיך מוחין עצמם. Tefillin is only the roshem, but the actual mochin is the tefillah. Yeah. Rav Goletsky is downstairs. He tries to wear tefillin. He's a tummy to Rav Scheinberg. I asked Rav Scheinberg once about wearing my tefillin all day long. He said, "Of course." I said, "But in yeshiva, Moluki, you said, can I just wear my tefillin shel? He said, "Yeah." I said, "If I just put them like," he said, "Of course. The more you can, the better." Like he was very big on wearing tefillin all day long. En koch ba'adam. His son once said, his son is like he's in his 90s, right? His son used to go over with him. He was like, Rav Shamba was like 80 and his son's like 60 or something, a great bit. So he said they stopped him in the airport and he had his tefillin on. So he said, "Why did you wear these? You're supposed to only wear them in the morning." So he says, "Even you learn as much as my father, then you can ask him." אין כוח באדם להעמיד זולת ג' שעות כנזכר, דהם לאו כן יתקשו שני המאמרים האלו זה בזה כן נלט. ונמצא, כי כפי זה אין ראוי לאדם שישן תכף בלילה. That's why you shouldn't sleep straight away after ערבית. אחר תפילת ערבית. יישאר שלוש שעות להעמיד המוחין העליונים לזון, כי השינה היא סוד הסתלקות המוחין שבו, כמו שבר אתה בעזרת השם. Let's do a little bit more. והנה עניין כוונת שינה. Now to understand what is שינה. עניינה הוא שצריך אדם לכוון כי גם בעת השינה עובד את הבורו בסוד בכל דרכך דאו. הוא שיכוון האדם שהוא עצמו הוא בחינת זה, דחורה. He's like the male, right? We're like the parallel of this דחורה. אשר הפיל עליו המעציל תרדמה וישן, וזה סוד השינה, היא סוד ההסתלקות המוחין ממנו. Right, so we have to make ourselves just like Adam Arishon and just like Zah in the Olamot goes to sleep. Now, Chaim asked a very good question. What's the point of all this Hamshachat Mochin, right? So the answer is that when we bring down the Mochin, we also make ourselves be more metukan. And the whole idea of going to sleep is to have koch to do it again and again and again. And each time we do it, the longer we can keep it, the bigger the koch that we can do. And I wanted to say,
So what?
huh?
So what's the nafkamina of not sleeping? If you miss a night or not for Torah,
You can't do the bechinah of achor b'achor, because that's the achor b'achor is in the tardema. After the achor b'achor, you have to take out the mochin from him to build nuk, to make a nesira. He's going to explain it. But there was another nekuda, I will come back to me after. ונודע שהמוחין שלא מלובשים תוך נאי דאימה. Okay, so the lower part of the ima, that which is like where her beten is, netzach chod yisod, that's where our neshama comes from. Because they מסתלקים ממנו ויוצא ונכנס בראש הדינוק דזה. So it came from ima, right? There's a livush that comes with it from ima, and all this is taken out from him and he goes to sleep and is given to the nook. ויערכן נבנית בסוד ויבן אדוני את הצלע. והעין בדרוש השופר, which we learn Rosh Hashanah, remember the Kavanot of Nesira. Rosh Nesira, there you go. הנעשית בעשה משובה. כי שם באמיתות עניין זה, וזה עניין נמשך עד חצות לילה. So I want to tell you the other thing I wanted to say is that he's going to say, we won't be able to do it today because it's much further down, but we'll carry on with the Kriyat Shem. It's very important, this Hakdama. I'm going to say that all throughout the day, there's different zivugim that are taking place. Right? Remember we're talking about Zun, but also Yaakov and Leah. Each tefillah, there's different. And he says, if a person synchronizes himself to know what's going on, like when after Chatzot, when you say Tikkun Chatzot, you're supposed to learn Torah, because then there's another zivug that takes place, which is till the morning. And in order for that zivug to have any koach, you have to learn Torah. So this is a person who synchronizes himself with these things that we're talking about. Says there's no erech like you can't imagine what says Tzaddik goes there. Baruch Hu Mekayem. It's like the biggest thing you could show him that Baruch has the pleasure when he goes in the Gan Eden. It says in the Gemara, it's all because on account of a person who's synchronized. And there's basically two kavanot of Chatzot, to cry for the avonot of the Korban and to cry for Rachel, who has to go down to bring all the she has to go and bring up all the biurim because she has to go and deal with the fixing of all these biurim that have to be fixed. So we'll see there's such a great ma'ala to do this. He's going to explain why it's so great. So right now, we're learning for the first time. There's going to be other examples. We're the first example of how we have to make ourselves synchronized with Zah. Just like he goes to sleep, we have to go to sleep. And this going to sleep is a big avodah. Meaning after when he goes to sleep, so to speak, our wives are being built spiritually when we go to sleep. Then they come back. ומזדווג בינו, וזה סוד חיוב אדם לקום בחצות הלילה להורות עניין חזרת המוחין ברישא דזה, להזדווג בינו, כמו שהתבהר, עניינו. והבן היטב, understand well, עניין כמעט חצות לילה, בסוד חצות לילה, לקום להודות לך, ולגרום זיווג עליון. Right, so this same zivug that happened in Chatzot, there's another zivug that happens after that, and then the main zivug is in the Niflat HaPayim. והנה קיבלת השינה בעצמה. We just do this and we'll finish, Rabotai. Look, let's just talk about sleeping. What is this avodah of sleeping? hu lemala beinyan adormita. This is our neshama has to go up because it leaves the body, like when Adam went to sleep. Because that's what happens to Zah. He loses all his mochin and he uses it to build up Nuk through Ima. Remember Rosh Hashanah. Shelo al yedei Zah. And then we take it back to him and he gives it all to him and he gives it to his Meitzah and the Panim. Right? Remember the 13 stages? Right? So when that happens to Zah, we have to do the same thing down here. So we explained to you in Hagdamah today because our world corresponds to this system. הנה נפלה עליו תדהמה וישן ואז המוחין שלו מסתלקים ממנו ונודע שהמוחים שלו הם בחינת נשמתו ורוחניותו ועולה נשמתו למעלה עד אבא ואמא ושם הוא מעלה מן באמא אלאה. And that's how you can take up the mochin for the birim of to imah. וגויים זו וגילון לאבא ואמא. Because when Zah goes up to Ima, where he came from, he takes the birim for Abba ve'ima, and then they make a zivug, and then Zah gets his chelek. ועל כן חוזרים להמשיך אליו מוחין חדשים, כדי שיוכל להזדבק עם נוק, אחר חצות לילה. So we understand, we send up birim, right? There's some of those birim have to come back to us. Some of them have to go to Zun. The ones that have to go to Zun has to take them up to Abba ve'ima. They have to fix it with the zivug and give it back to Zun, and then Zun and Nuk is fixed to make the zivug. Right? So from all of that, we get a chelik as well, of bakshish. ואף על פי יד שבכל הזיווגים דאבבים צריך יעלה לשניהם מזון בסוד מן, אין זה אלא כשהזיווג הוא לצורך לשניהם. אבל הזיווג הזה דאבבים אינו אלא לצורך תיקון הנקבה. בסוד ויבן אדוני אלוהים את הסלע. לכן מספיק שזר לבדו יעלה מן. Right? It's explaining some technical details about who goes up. כן ממש צריך, this is not good. כן ממש צריך האדם התחתון לכוון בעצמו, כי רוחניותו ונשמתו מסתלקת ממנו. Every day we go to sleep, we have to מכוון that our spiritual side, our neshama, is going to be fleeing away. והוא מעלה אותם בתחילת הלילה בסוד מן. The person stays awake all night long, it still happens at Chatzor. In the blink of an eye, his neshama goes up and comes back down. It happens exactly in Nikudat Chatzor. Right? And he goes, right, מה לגבי נוק דזהה, לצורך שלה, כדי שתוכל אחר כך, היא באותו רגע ממש של חצות לילה, להעלות מה לגבי בעלה, שהוא זר, המתחיל לזווג עמה בחצות לילה, ואף ביד שהזיווג הזה מתמיד והולך, right? מתמיד והולך כל חצות האחרונה של הלילה, this system, it starts at חצות, but it carries on the whole night, so you're supposed to learn Torah all night long. עד אור הבוקר. אין בכך כלום, כיוון שכבר העלתה מן לגבי בעלה בתחילת הזיווג. You can even go back to sleep and wake up again, it's fine, he says. as long as ברגע חצות לילה, וזה סוד מה שכתוב בזוהר, כי בעת חצות לילה מכריזים למעלה שירדו נשמות הצדיקים התחתונים למקומם בעולם הזה, לשבחה למארי הון, לתעסקה באורייתא בסוד מה שכתב, הנה ברכו את אדוני כל עבדי אדוני ועומדים בבית אדוני בלילות. So it says in the Sha'ar Yechudim that the tzaddikim in Gan Eden, they have relations with their wives, the chatzor, and they borrow the neshama of the gerim, like they did in this world. Right? Those zivugim. כנזכר בזוהר ויקל. אבל בחצות הראשונה של הלילה, אז קודשא ברוך הוא איל בגן עדן, משתעשע עם הנשמות הצדיקים, ועניין הישוע הזה הוא שנשמותיהם עולות בסוד מן, מורים זיווג, הוא משתעשע בהם, he enjoys this זיווג, אחר כך הם יודעים למטה לעסוק בתורה אחר כך חצי חצות לילה. וצריך לבאר מה עניין גודל השבח המעלה להרבה בעצמו והעצומה שיפליגו ברזל. If you go through the Sefer Zohar, there isn't anything that's mentioned and praised as much as Tikkun Chatzot, the Palgut Laila. They have to wake up and say it. And what's this great inyan of this Tikkun Chatzot? שיפליגו רזל בדושים ובזוהר פעמים הרבה, לאין קץ. במעלת מי שעוסק בתורה אחרי חצות לילה, כמה כוחו גודל עד מאוד, how great it is. That's going to explain it, but it's already late, so we'll maybe stop over here. We'll carry on next time. ברוך אדוני לעולם, אמן ואמן.
I'll take more than 3 hours. Stick up all the rock and shorts on. The The Shah Kavanot that for Ben Amitari, where he quotes that you can't Shechem was should be saying about.
I'm just going to stop this and come back to stop it here, end it here. That's the one.